Yes, part 4 of the Nina's interrogatories. Things that will not change no matter who becomes president. For which reason we should abandon the talk of whose turn it is or who has emerged to go to transition for union reconstruction. In this final part, we'll be looking at the practical rejection of the union from various parts, which unless you address the concerns, unless you address the issues that that are responsible for all those things people are doing to demonstrate that their allegiance has departed from your Nigeria, you continue to go in cycles no matter who is president. Let us start looking at the map of Nigeria you see here. You see this section in yellow, 12 contiguous states. Simultaneously imposed Sharia in year 2000, meaning that they consulted. It was their state House of Assembly that did all of what was done. Their governors signed such things into those legislations into law and set up the Hisbah, the Sharia police that have been enforcing. They've never repealed any of those laws the same way they passed them. They may tell you, oh, it's a joke, Sharia does not exist, but it exists in Kano, destroying people's business. It exists in Sokoto, destroying people's business. And so we come down to section 10. Let's listen very carefully. For those who may think that these are troublemakers who don't wish Nigeria well, Nigeria, the Federation, is not what we are discussing. Nigeria, the Federation, died a long time ago. But the Nigeria, the unitary state, the monster that is now feeding on the blood of those it's holding by force against the will. It is that Nigeria that has, the Nigeria that should have been our union was agreed to be a secular state. For which reason, Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution, as disputed as it is, Section 10 expressly forbids the adoption of any state religion by the government of the Federation or that of any state. That's no state, the government of the Federation or that of a state shall not adopt any religion as state religion. That's the entire provision of Section 10. And so when in year 2000, these 12 contiguous states that run from Sokoto Kebbi through Kano Jigawa to Borno in the uppermost north of Nigeria simultaneously imposed Sharia, adopted and imposed Sharia and began to implement it. They had seceded from the secular union of Nigeria as dictated by Section 10 that says they should not do such a thing. They should not adopt state religion. And so we were, ordinarily it would have been to go and quarrel with them. But we took a second look at it in this project. And we said that this is a self-determination that they have exercised. And they went through due process. They consulted among themselves. That was why they could act simultaneously. They are contiguous. They were not picking one here, picking one there, so you don't know how they came about it. They are contiguous. They acted simultaneous. And so it must be that they consulted. But if anybody was in doubt, they went through the due process of their state assemblies passing the law. They also went through the due process of their governors signing and setting up the Hisbah. And so we interpreted it to mean that they had decided to secede from the secular union we were building together with them. They've left the Nigerian Union. They've now regrouped and are coming on a conquest mission, knowing that the title, having abandoned their own title deed in that respect, that the constitution by which Nigeria is convened and controlled and managed, they departed from that constitution by imposing Sharia. But they regrouped and they are here now overrunning, invading communities, killing people and bringing their the Fulani from Mauritania and Senegal and everywhere to come to share the land. They've shared it all the way to Port Harcourt. Look at the tiles on the ground where you are. And you will see the kind of formations in which they had divided up the entire land all the way to Bonny and Badagry in Lagos area, Bonny in River. And so we are saying that it is that is the first practical rejection of the Nigerian Federation by that part. The campaign we are leading was then the response of, because these same people who have imposed Sharia have departed from a union of sanctity of life. Under Sharia, the adherents owe it a duty of faith to kill the infidel. How are we to be in a union where our compatriots owe it a duty of faith to kill us? We saw what happened with Gideon Akaluka. We saw what happened with Deborah in Sokoto. We saw what's going on with, we had when Dr. Melafia told us who and who was doing what. We saw what Buhari, the champion of Sharia, and the killings that come with Sharia, the same people adopted in their worldview, their civilization is that of feudalism. Feudalism. Under Sharia, we're exposed to being killed as infidels. Under their feudalism, we're exposed to being killed too, because in their worldview of feudalism, there's only the master and the slave. Our insistence on democracy is infuriating to them, because in feudalism, you can't be talking democracy, because the slaves cannot have equal rights with the master. The reason that people are flying flags, Odua nation, Biafra nation, Ijaw nation, at a time the ones who are doing Sharia had gone their way. So there are practical steps to leave the union. People are holding solemn assemblies and saying we can't proceed on this. None of those things will change. And the reason they are doing so, in case anybody did not understand it, apart from the Sharia belt that has seceded, the feudalist belt that has seceded, the other ones who are who subscribe to democracy, who subscribe to constitutionalism, they insist on a union of sanctity of life. They insist on a union of equality of men. The Ninas Alliance, the South and the Middle Belt, minimum condition for re-entering, for renegotiating even any form of union. Where we are now is that the union is at an end. Anybody who doesn't understand it will learn the hard way that the constitution has been delegitimized and is going to be decommissioned. Whether we went to a meeting to do so together or it happens unilaterally, because that's where it will go next. In the kind of brigandage we have seen, in the kind of killings we have seen, in the kind of refusal to listen that we have seen, people pointing guns, union at gunpoint, it's not going to last, it's not going to, it's started too long already. And so, the practical rejection of the union across board is because we have not sat down to agree to be in union and on the terms of that union. The arrival of anybody as president today does not solve that problem by itself, except we go to solving the problem. And it's not the business of government to come and negotiate our sovereignty. It is a sovereign, it is the owners of the sovereignty. The Yoruba that could be a country of its own, or the Jaw that could be a country of their own, or the Benin Kingdom that was there before Nigeria came. They know their boundaries. And if you go to check the 1885 map of the lower Niger, for instance, you will see where Ijaw land begins and where Igbo land starts. You will see where Ishekiri and Urobo land begin and where Anang and Efik connect. And so let us understand that in this union dispute that must now be resolved, or the union stands dissolved, we are either discussing now or we are dispersing from this failed union. That's where we are. And election that will produce new president is not the solution to the issues being raised now. And we do not, those people that now want to come and present themselves as president, in the days ahead, there will be somebody will ask them on the street, president of where? Because the constitution that brings us together is dead. can we come together and give that constitution some kind of decent burial? Or do we want vultures to tear it up on the streets like we have seen in other climes, like we nearly saw in 67 to 70? Those are the options before us. But Ninas has placed on the table a peaceful, strategic framework and process for resolving these issues and stopping the pretense that we have a settled union. I think we begin to wind up from there. What are we to do with all this information? We will then ask those who have been asking, what shall we do from here? You must join us now, knowing that the Constitution is the source of the problem. Hearing this, they say in the mouth of two witnesses, a matter is established. You've heard from the mouth of more than two witnesses. You had up to 7, 8 other witnesses. That the Constitution of Nigeria is the problem, it's the source of all the problems we are trying to manage, and it will consume us if we don't solve it. What was the prescription for what to do? That we should make a U-turn. Professor Anthony Akinwale, God bless him, found the courage to tell us that we will have to make a U-turn. If we, and he talked about the Constitution, that we don't have a project. Those are his words. A Catholic priest. That we do not have. He used to be vice chancellor at the Dominican University in Ibadan. We do not have a project. The project we call Nigeria is a scam. It's a fraud against the people you hold here, against their will. Union at gunpoint. That's why he described it. That's how he described it. Now that we know, now that we have seen that the Constitution of Nigeria, the unitary Constitution of Nigeria, is the problem that has to be solved, not anything else. Not anything else. Leadership that we don't have is because we have a crooked, constitutional arrangement that now brings all this kind of charlatans we see into government house. And so, the action we can take to reverse the situation is to join in declaring that Ninas is right, the Constitution of Nigeria is the problem, the unitary Constitution of Nigeria is the problem, and elections will not solve that problem. We have to go to transition. Ninas says, let us leave elections, even the one that have been done, that has gone inconclusive, let us go to transition now. Because if we are not going into that transition to resolve this damaged constitutional basis of Nigeria, unilateral actions may overtake everybody, and then it will be something that everybody will regret they didn't act earlier. A word should be enough for the wise. Thank you.